one's the best? Which 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 one's the best? What's the second best?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Discover Crypto. It is 4 p.m. stream. I'm doing it a few minutes early today, but we got to talk about this absolute meltdown on the charts and the overwhelming signal of what is coming that is actually like not even kind of bullish, but it is explosively nuclear bullish to the upside and what's setting up here. And that has to do with the policies that are surrounding what's going on in price action and what that may mean looking forward into 2026, especially into the end of this year. So when we see this price action breaking down, is it the end of the world? I say it is overwhelming opportunity, as I have called out time and time again in this bull trend all the way back here. If we zoom back all the way to the bottom of this cycle, each one of these dips, I was talking about very great, amazing buying opportunities, especially this one right here. This was that legendary call on April 7th where August 7th, when we had that sell-off right into this zone that we talked about, the move back to the upside. Similarly, this move right here down in April 7th, this was that other move that, the tariff fear that ultimately has only led to the S&P 500 and the traditional assets out there also just pushing to new highs over and away. So what are we to make of to what is going on in the market right now? Because we are seeing some downside price action. So what does it mean? And furthermore, why do the policies that we're talking about, is it us just rubbing our elbows and making ourselves feel good because we got some positive policies coming out? Well, I know Dennis Porter has been working tirelessly over with Satoshi Action Fund to push forward the policies in favor of support of Bitcoin and the crypto ecosystem. So let's talk about exactly what's happening with price action and furthermore, what we can expect as we're moving into this next stage, especially going into October and beyond. Well, first off, what happened today? Well, so overvalued, Jerome Powell earlier today said that stocks are overvalued, but you need to remember that overvalued can get even more overvalued because you could really classify the majority of investment assets being overvalued for the last 15, 20, 30, 40 years, because in reality, if you look at the correlation of the price action to the money printing, in reality, what you're seeing in prices appreciate is a capturing of all that new money entering the market. Because if you adjust them for inflation, we haven't really seen overwhelming dramatic growth in a lot of the assets that have pushed up. So when we're looking at this and people say it's overvalued, and you're looking at the S&P 500, where's that at? Right here. And we come back over, where the heck is that chart? Right here. S&P 500 overvalued. Maybe NVIDIA is overvalued, maybe Microsoft, maybe Amazon, but we're also embarking on retooling the world because it's not just blockchain and Bitcoin and digital assets. It's also the tech sector basically growing into becoming probably the most important industry in all markets. So what does this mean? Overvalued. Well, consider this also. This is a very interesting chart I just wanted to highlight for all of you here, and that is this: consumer breakout. A strong consumer, discretionaries versus staples, is the backbone for the market. Consumers typically weaken before stock market tops. We have just finally broken above the 2021 high. So you're telling me the signal that we could be hitting a stock market top or a Bitcoin top or these digital asset tops, but we're seeing the other correlations of this pushing higher. These things don't add up. So on the one hand, things are feeling overvalued because I don't think we can quantify really the impact that the cloud sector, the cloud computing, you look at Amazon, it's not just a large retailer online, basically commerce. They're also providing an enormous amount and drive an enormous amount of revenue from their AWS. If you watch football, if you have a business that's aggregating data, there's so much revenue that they're generating from AWS. Then you have Microsoft Azure, and then there's so many different aspects out there that are, driving huge amounts of revenue. We also saw what happened with Oracle recently with that massive pump up. It's since retraced quite a bit, but we're seeing massive developments in the tech sector as well as in the Bitcoin and digital asset ecosystem. In this case right here, we're seeing the correlated assets that could signal weakness in markets are pushing to new highs. And it's not just these very abstract, correlated assets, but also when we look at things like the Bollinger Bands on Bitcoin, we've seen that we are in not only, look how tight this is, look how tight this is. See these bands, when they're getting very tight, this signals a large volatility is coming back in soon. And look at this volatility was upside. Of course, as this pinched in a bit right here, volatility went to the downside, but the landscape is overwhelmingly bullish. And not only is this tight right here, I just want to highlight something. Bitcoin's weekly Bollinger Bands are officially the tightest in the entire history of Bitcoin. So we are in the most constrained price action we've ever seen, and yet we're sitting up here in that $111,000 to $124,000, $125,000 region, and people are losing their minds. And you can see this width. If you can't just see, you can't tell exactly, look down here. This is the same measurement simplified from what you're seeing on the width, the Bollinger Band width percentile. That's what this is down here, Bollinger Band width. When this is very tall, this area is very wide. When these bands are very tight, this area drops very low right here. And look, the lowest it has ever been, AKA massive volatility is inbound. Now, does that mean we get a very shocking move to the downside before up? Maybe, but there's some incredible signs signaling higher, higher. Sir, are you strapped in because it's going higher? Regardless of downside price action that may be setting up here in the near term. So let's talk about some of those things. First up right now is the gold. Look at the correlation between gold and Bitcoin. Notice that each one of these yellow lines, when it's really priming up to the upside, really going parabolic to the upside again, moving up this entire way and only increasing the velocity to the upside on gold. Look at where this is in relationship to the Bitcoin parabolic bull trend that we're seeing here on the way to the upside. Well, this was a front runner before we had that pull up. This was a front runner before we had that massive move up. Yet again, this has been moving overwhelmingly aggressively since about March of last year, because I know I can tell that without even looking at the bottom here, because this is that 7-month sideways price action that really just chopped the living heck out of everybody. And yet the gold price was going to the moon here. Remember, Bitcoin is still an emerging asset class. This is why the policies are so important. Excuse me. This is why corporate treasury stacking is so important. This is also why it's important for you as an individual to be stacking and self-custodying, because the world is still trying to figure out what Bitcoin means to them. Bitcoin's not going to wait. Some big players are going to get in early. Most big players are going to get in late. Some retail, in fact, a lot of retail has gotten in early. And now, we're seeing a small bit of rotation there. But the accumulation addresses, the wallets that are suggesting when they buy Bitcoin, they're only holding Bitcoin, or the predominant action in their wallet is just to accumulate, is growing astronomically. And yet people are worried here. I'm telling you right now, on a day where you're seeing the price action melt to the downside, where the heck is that chart at? There we go. Melting to the downside right in here. This feels like the end of the world. But when you realize what is happening and where we're going, this becomes a gift. And I know I say that day in and day out, but we have to make sure that we don't lose sight of the forest for the trees, because we need it to go up now, because we thought we were going to be rich if we got in crypto, like our friend said, or like Kelly said on Discover Crypto, or DZ, or Drew, or any of the other people that you've seen online. Sometimes the best things take some time to develop. And in fact, when you look at the rate of change in Bitcoin's price action over the last many years, it's really not that bad. In fact, I'm going to show you this chart again later, and I'm going to tell you why in a bit. But notice that we went from $1,000 back here in 2017, February, to up over $100,000 in about under 3,000 days. So 2,870-ish days. Again, I did this on the weekly chart, so it could be plus or minus several days, but about 2,800 days, 2,900 days. 10x, not 10x, 100x. 100x. Bitcoin has 100x'd since February of 2017. And yet people are worried that isn't the price high? How much higher can it go? Is there still a lot of growth to be had? We're going to be diving back into that here in just a few minutes. But looking at the data, understanding that we got the tightest Bollinger Bands we've ever seen, volatility is inbound, and the landscape surrounding an assumption or denial of whether or not price action will either, move to the upside or sell off and consistently a continuation to the downside. The landscape suggests the former, which is moving to the upside. Because remember, the supply and demand dynamics of markets are the overwhelming thing that drives the asset's value. There's narratives around this that can shape supply and demand, sure, but within Bitcoin, you cannot change the supply. You can change some of the available supply, meaning the amount people are willing to sell. However, what we're looking at is a monumental time in history, and yet people are worried because we're getting a little bit of a pullback on a day where the chairman of the Fed said, well, the prices may be a little high. Well, he has no real impact on what's happening with Bitcoin. If price action's selling off right now, if we saw it sell off since Sunday, it's a manufactured instance to get you to sell your Bitcoin, because Bitcoin will push up higher in the long run, especially considering what we're seeing with gold absolutely mooning. I mean, look at this legendary moon. We see a move with gold. It's moved up to over $3,800 area per ounce. And remember, the majority of gold in Fort Knox, if it's there, is valued at about 41, 42 bucks an ounce because they haven't repriced it yet. So just let that marinate in your brain. But then we see the landscape, back to the landscape, policies, things changing in dramatic fashion in support of this asset class. White House official Patrick Witt says the crypto market structure bill is expected to pass in 2025, but there's a little bit of a hiccup there, because we see from Eleanor Terrett, who posted this this morning, says the consensus among a handful of Capitol Hill sources is that the September 30th market structure markup, when it potentially could have been marked up and then move forward towards passing, basically is now effectively off the table. But the next target date is around October 20th. But we also have this looming potential government shutdown. Every single thing that I'm seeing in the news right now is screaming an absolute reason why Bitcoin exists and why it is an imperative. If you believe that you will live at some point beyond today into the future, if you believe you have friends and family and you want to participate in your future meaningfully, Bitcoin is getting a resounding, singing, absolute chorus of reasons in every single news headline that we're seeing, from Ukraine to Vietnam confiscating bank accounts to what we're seeing in Korea, what we're seeing all over Africa, what we're seeing in the U.S., the divisions. You don't like this current president? Great, get Bitcoin. You like the last president? Great, get Bitcoin. You don't want a president? Great, get Bitcoin. The whole thing about Bitcoin is that it's outside of every political structure. It is agnostic to government controls, and yet governments are trying to move as fast as they can to participate in this ecosystem. Otherwise, the entire fiat monetary system will collapse. They have to participate in this, just like as an individual. If you're planning for a future, it is an imperative that you get involved with Bitcoin, because then we also see SEC Chair Paul Atkins today says to allow Bitcoin companies to be exempt from previous regulations to foster innovation. They're softening their stance entirely to allow exchanges to participate in basically brokering Bitcoin, and also the different services and functions and financial tools that can be integrated and deployed alongside and with Bitcoin. We are starting to see the complete opposite of what we saw the entire life of Bitcoin, the world opening up to this, the regulations, the policies, everything is moving in favor of an overwhelming future for Bitcoin. So I celebrate the fact that we're having a down day. Throw a 1 in chat right now. If, even though you might be frustrated in the near term, because do I want the price to go up? Absolutely. So even though I might be frustrated on a day like today, where it's like, man, it's like, I wish I could screenshot my portfolio today. I wish I was 14x like I was expecting 2 years ago. Let's put all that nonsense aside. If we can have that feeling, but then also realize that is our ignorance speaking. That is our bias. That is our desire for the market. The market doesn't do what we desire. It provides us opportunities. And the fact that we have an overwhelming landscape that is screaming higher throughout the rest of our lives, then we should be celebrating this move to the downside. Bitcoin doesn't give a damn about what Powell says. This is speculators in the market over leveraged, but also market makers taking advantage of that hope and fear and pushing this market, getting these cascading liquidations, and then, basically setting up better opportunities to buy before it does move higher. So getting back over to what we were talking about here. So we got Paul Atkins talking about softening exactly the regulations to foster innovation. Amazing. Then we also see $1.7 trillion Morgan Stanley to launch Bitcoin trading on E-Trade. Over 10 million customers about to get access to Bitcoin. Now, whether that has a dramatic impact, like the first day we have, some odd $1 billion that are immediately bought with Bitcoin because now they have access. Many people have the different channels, but then again, this is further integrating and weaving Bitcoin into the financial layer of this world. So let's be a little bit more patient on a day like today where we're getting opportunity setting up before that higher comes, because then we've also got Binance founder CZ proposes reducing BNB chain fees by 50%. And this is on, a week where Aster is absolutely melting to the upside, and BNB is becoming it has been one of those major chains in the top 5, top 6. And it's been very firmly up there. Also the biggest chain. Also, arguably one of the best KOLs. KOL means knowledge and opinion leader, and I hate that acronym, but let's just use it. One of the biggest, basically, influencers in the crypto ecosystem. People's just mere rumor of him potentially being in any way involved in Aster, everybody's like, boom. And what have we seen? We saw Aster go from about 15 cents up to over $2 today. Incredible. And now, again, BNB is reducing their chain fees by 50%. We're seeing this competitive nature amongst L1s and L2s now, which is absolutely phenomenal. And then what else we got? We see pro-Bitcoin candidate Ian Calderon launching a campaign for California governor. Now, again, whether or not this is going to be ultimately, whether or not he gets voted in or not, if he's, I don't want to say legitimate candidate. Of course, he's a legitimate. If he has a huge portion of polling, for instance, these types of things are powerful because he's very pro-Bitcoin. So let's say he doesn't get all the way through the primaries and he's not even on the ticket. The fact that he's being so pro-Bitcoin is also going to put pressure on people like Gavin Newsom to step up to the plate on some of their discussions or ideals, or how they're discussing their thoughts and integrations and what they want to move forward with in terms of Bitcoin. California, remember, the 4th largest economy in the world. Where is that page at right here? California's economy, global economic powerhouse, ranking world's 4th or 5th largest. So currently the 4th largest in the world, meaning this isn't across states. This is across every country in the world. California by itself is number 4 in the world over most countries, how big their economy is. So if they push forward and get a strategic Bitcoin reserve or start making strong headway on that, it's one of those things that's only driving more and more awareness, more and more innovation, so on and so forth. So shout out to candidates out there putting their name in the ring and actually trying to push some things forward in terms of pro-Bitcoin legislation and empowering just stances within the political body of the U.S. This is very positive. And then we talk about where we came from and where we've gone. This is just 2025. I want you all to realize this. This is just 2025. So while everybody's out there going, Kelly, look at the charts. What's my level down on the 3-minute chart so I can trade this degen nonsense bullshit coin? And you're looking at, oh my God, okay, let's get to the 1 hour. Oh, this is so scary, guys. It's so scary. It's moving down. Okay, well, let's go back to the fundamentals. Damn it. Let's look at this. Just in 2025 alone, White House executive order on digital financial technology, halt on federal Bitcoin sales and strategic acquisition, and adding strategic acquisition. SEC policy pivot under new leadership. The new SEC, Paul Atkins, withdrew enforcement actions, signaling a shift toward innovation-friendly crypto regulations. Remember, this is one of those things that was an overwhelming barrier to big money getting involved, innovation getting involved, corporations, venture capital. This was basically pushing everything offshore. Now can crypto and Bitcoin and digital assets and your favorite altcoin and your meme coins, they could all do fine without the U.S. involvement. 100%. We've seen it since January 2009 to where we're at today, to where we were January 20th of this year, everything in the US was set up against crypto, and crypto has grown exponentially. The difference now, though, is we have had crypto adoption to a good degree in the US in the face of all that sort of resistance from the administrations prior, all the regulation prior, or the lack of regulation prior. So consider where we can go now that we're opening up that regulatory question mark. Am I safe? Am I going to get a Wells notice? Am I going to get, prosecuted by some regulatory agency and shut down and be cost hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees or get sued? All that is basically getting thrown to the wayside for good actors. For bad actors, throw them all in jail. But what we're seeing is incredible. Again, I'm only on the third one here out of this main list, and there's more than this. Again, this is just 2025. The Genius Clarity Act passed by Congress. The bipartisan law clarifies digital asset definitions and streamlines SEC and CFTC oversight, fostering industry growth. We also see SEC's crypto integration proposals. We also see crypto tax modernization. The bill has been introduced in July. Tax exemption for U.S.-based crypto projects. New tax policy exempts domestic crypto projects from certain taxes, encouraging U.S.-based blockchain innovation. Bitcoin in 401ks, retirement plans. The Department of Labor allowed Bitcoin in 401k plans, opening retirement savings to crypto investments. Remember, that's about a $12 trillion market, getting exposure or at least access to exposure to Bitcoin investment. This is all since basically, when we look at this chart, right? Let's see, where is January? Right here. This date right here, we'll do another line. It's all since this date. Everything before this second line, everything here was a performance of Bitcoin prior to all of these positive shifts, opening the door, opening the gateway, opening the floodgates of capital that can now come in from the US. Now, again, the entire crypto market would have done overwhelmingly still great because of how much more efficient Bitcoin, blockchain, digital assets, crypto are than the legacy, antiquated financial system. Crypto would have done fine, but now we have a nitrous oxide super booster turbo pack on this crypto ecosystem. And yet again, people are looking at this and going, but I'm scared. I'm scared though. I'm scared there's a dip. Guys, there's a dip. Oh my God. Meanwhile, the landscape and fundamentals of this asset class have gone parabolically nuclear in a bullish support. So when the title of today's stream is US government extends crypto bull run, you're damn right it has, because what we're going to see going into 2026, in my opinion, and looking maybe potentially even beyond, is a different shape in the market cycles of Bitcoin and thus the other parts of the digital asset ecosystem: Ethereum, BNB, Cardano, Chainlink, XRP, XLM, Avalanche. Avalanche has been absolutely mooning. Ondo, integrating some of the world's top stocks and securities on chain, US treasuries, right? We've got Injective, we've got BitTensor Tau. The ecosystem was already alive and well with shackles on its feet. Now we have Usain Bolt with the proper shoes, with the Gatorade that he just drank, and it's enough electrolytes to run 17 marathons in a row. And you're betting that Usain Bolt can't run fast because you saw him sitting down? What are we talking about? Let's stop. And I'm going to say it. Let's all stop being bitches to ourselves. Let's look at the data. Stop being a slave to the fear of the price. Because what I see is a setup for higher and higher and higher. And along the way, there's going to be some buying opportunities, some buying opportunities, some buying opportunities. So that's what I am seeing. Getting onto this, and again, this is going to be a little bit shorter show because I have something I have to run to at 4:30. But looking at this, why do I have this marked down? From $1,000 to up to $100,000, and then we measured from that date to that $100,000 break. Took about 2,900 days. And then I have this marked out up to $3.6 million. Why is that? And that would be potentially in about 1,000 days. Does that seem unfounded? Well, this is a 100x boom to this level. Now, this here would be about a 30x from this level, a little over a 30x. Now, why do we talk about that? Well, when you come over here and you talk about, by the way, not to mention what the world coming onto Bitcoin and blockchain and digital assets and RWAs and NFT. This is what is integrating into the crypto world. Banking, insurance, law, trading, titles and ownership rights, money, social media, news, messaging. Everything is moving to compute and to blockchain. So let's lock in on that, because when you see somebody like Arthur Hayes, who makes some pretty good calls, also makes some questionable ones, but I agree that this is very possible. Arthur Hayes said in his new essay that Trump era money printing could send Bitcoin much higher, with a model pointing out to $3.4 million Bitcoin per individual Bitcoin by 2028. This seems so so high. 3.4 million per coin. Is it possible? Let's go back to that chart. What do we see? Took almost 3,000 days to do 100x. So you're telling me we can't potentially, now that the U.S. institutions, governments are getting involved in the way that they are, you're telling me that in 1,000 days, a little over 1,000 days, we can't do a 30x, 100x, 30% of that move? I think it's overwhelmingly possible. Now, will we get it? I don't really care. Say we only go up to about $1.5 million by 2027, or $1.5 million by 2028, and then a sell-off. We forgot that even if you only went, let's say we only went to 600,000 by 2028. Again, irrelevant, because what that would result for me is some sort of sell-offs, but this is going to continue moving up like this over time, up and to the right. Now, will it arc some? Sure. But guys, what we are in store for makes me laugh every day when I'm streaming, or I'm on one of our other Discover Crypto streams, or I'm in the DGen chats on Pump Fund, where every one of those guys has got some brilliant economic advice. They don't know a damn thing about markets. They're just hoping the coin they bought right now will go up in the next 7 minutes. And if not, you're a scammer. Screw that nonsense. Go take your head out of your ass and look at the data that is out there, because there is overwhelming, life-changing wealth to be made in these markets. Can you land on a lottery ticket on a random Jeter pump fund token? Sure, but it's astronomically unlikely. Take some shots. I do all the time. But my money is on assets like Bitcoin, on assets like Ethereum, on assets like Chainlink, on assets like Avalanche. I mean, the fact that, this looks like it is set. That's Bitcoin. Let's go over to Ethereum. Came down. All it has done is broke out, came back down, tested this massive trend line that we see right here. Great. If this loses, we know the next level's down based on the previous range highs. But all of the area down here would be an overwhelming buy signal for me for Ethereum if this were to drop into these zones. But I do think, look how overheated the RSI is. I think we're going to be getting a reversal very soon. BNB, look at this, pushing up to new highs, oh my God, it's sold off, guys. But look, but wait, there's more. We just got incredible news about them cutting their fees on BNB chain. This is probably going to bring some new adoption, new users to this. This is curving. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me delete that option. I want to come down here. There we go. This is just curving beautifully to the upside. It already rejected at the 1.618. See that? Boom, 1.618. Next level up is 1.786. That's 1171. Next one up, 2.618, 1600. I think these targets will be hit. Avalanche, absolutely. Just look at this. You know what I love about this chart with Avalanche? Look at the shape. I'm going to turn off every line. Look at the shape here. Rounded, rounded, rounded with a little bit higher low here. Almost like a very lopsided inverse head and shoulders, but this rounding pattern with the attempt, smaller attempt. Now look at Ondo, okay? Look at Ondo. Rounded, rounded, rounded. Not as deep here, right? But what do you notice different here? Is Avalanche giving us the signal of the leg up that's about to come to many of these other altcoins? Because it's not just Ondo. We also see it, things like Near. Same shape, except we haven't gotten that pop out yet. This market takes its turn between different assets where capital flood into. Aster Aster has been absolutely moonshotting. Even today, I was like, man, should I might have almost added to a position. I saw it drop from $2 all the way down to about $1.27, $1.30. Where is Aster at? Here we go. And then this morning I looked at it, it was $1.50, and I was like, maybe I'll let it cool off. And then what happened on it? What happened on it? It went up over $2. This is where I looked at it this morning. I looked at it about right here on this dip right here. I was like, I faded it. And then what did it do from that move? From that move, boom. From that move, it did let's look at that. It did a 45% move up to that recent high. And that high was at about $2.17. Guys, this market will see capital rotate between different assets, especially as the world is waking up to these assets, corporations, venture capitalists, governments, different treasury companies. Anthony Scaramouche, Maxi now has, the ETH treasury company. And I mean, looking incredible. Aerodrome. Guys, we're so frustrated with Aerodrome. Why? Base ecosystem. Vitalik Buterin just tweeted about the base ecosystem, how they're doing it right. Coinbase integrating more things with Morpho, and how much, major capital coming in to Coinbase, and also the fact that there are custodians of the largest ETFs, right? And the fact that the base ecosystem getting integrated into Coinbase itself through the DEX, Aerodrome. Guys, we are not bullish enough on days right now when the market is having a little bit of a sell-off. Dog, oh my God, it's selling. But what do you notice? Still just following the channel that it's been in. And is dog failing, or is the market seeing a pullback? Because when I look at Cardano, look at that, boom, drop. When I look at Injective, what do I see? Drop. When I look at BitTensor Tau, drop. So when you have a particular asset, you go, why is it dumping? Have you not looked at the rest of the market right now where we're seeing a little bit of a sell-off? Understand the context of the environment you're in, because when we go back to so many of these things that we highlighted, this signaling that we probably have some more upside in the stock market, this signaling that we have a huge amount of volatility coming in with the Bollinger Bands being the tightest they've ever been, signaling a major move inbound, this signaling gold just absolutely mooning to the top, which front runs the absolute parabolic move that we see in Bitcoin. And you are worried. What are you worried about, everybody? I love you. I appreciate you. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell. I know it's a little bit shorter today. I think we got a super chat. Oh, it's a new member. Silverback, welcome to the stream, my friend. Welcome to the family. Big love to each and every one of you. Man, we are here, and you can't just be in it at the top and be excited about it unless you rode through the chop of a lifetime as the best asset in our lifetime and the best asset class, crypto, altcoins, degen, memes, all of it. You got to make sure you learn how to take your shots. Protect your risk. Don't over allocate and the highest risk plays, but take some shots. Get Bitcoin in focus. And with that, that's what I got to say. Make sure you're giving me a follow right here if you want more information. I share it all day long, every day here on my page at Kelly Kellum. Show some love. And then, of course, on our main channel here, Discover Crypto, make sure you're following at Discover Crypto _. Make sure you're typing in these things correctly, because there's so many fake profiles that scam and try to impersonate us. So it's Discover Crypto _. It's got about 1 million subscribers. And then mine is at Kelly Kellum, KELLY KELLAM. These are not uppercase I's or ones or Kelly dot. There's so many fake profiles out there. Make sure you're following the right one. But I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. And I got to roll because I got to go host something on the Mario Nafal show. And I will see you all tomorrow. Adios, muchachos. For all of you that have been around for a long time. Adios, muchachos. Thank you for coming. Thank you for always tuning in.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.